March 22nd, 2:14 p.m. District Court, Defendant Lobby, number 3. Dude, I can't believe that Adrian, no way! Not cool and collected Adrian Andrews. She's your manager. It would have been very easy for her to pull this off. The only person who had easy access to the knife you used at dinner was, well, her. So after a ceremony during the break, huh? I was sleeping like a log the entire time. See, so she could have also easily planned that blood-covered button in your hakama. Is she the one that came to wake me up? Then, dude, you're saying it really was her? Yes, she is the real killer. She was the one who murdered Juan Frida. But why? I thought she was buds with Juan. She has her own agenda. Her own agenda? What are you talking about? I'm sure you'll see by the time this trial's over. It'll be alright. I'll get you acquitted by the end of the day. Get me a verdict that's refreshing like a spring breeze, okay, Mr. Lawyer Dude? Phoenix, you think her motive is related to Celeste Impact's missing suicide note, right? Yes. Miss Andrews depended on Miss Impact's strength and reason to live. But then Miss Impact suddenly killed herself. It sounded like she had left a suicide note, and the person thought to have hidden it is Juan Frida, the victim of this murder. And that's why I think that Miss Andrews got close to Mr. Carita. All to get the suicide note back. This sounds plausible. But one thing bothers me. What? Who was it that first told you about their relationship? Better stated, Miss Andrews' dependencies in regard to Miss Impact's. It was Edgeworth. Looks like he's still the one in command of the ship. Don't your guard down yet. Oh boy. Court will now reconvene. Now then, Mr. Edgeworth, if you please. The prosecution calls the witness subpoenaed by this court. Mr. Adrian Andrews, the person who discovered this crime in Mr. Carita's room. What is your occupation? I am the manager of the defendant in this case, Mr. Matt Undar. I see, now then. Before I begin, Your Honor, I have one request. Yes, sure, what is it? This chair in this room is wondering the same thing. I would like to find out more about my relationship with the victim. After all, it was the topic of a certain weekly magazine recently. No, I have no idea what you mean. I've never even heard of Gossip Lab. Judges, if a prosecution witness, you do all my work for me. Anyway, I was wondering if you could please tell us about your relationship with the victim. Yes, I was seeing Mr. Carita. I was also aware of the rivalry that existed between Matt and Juan. But this was a private matter between Juan and myself. So it was fly and bait, for a matter. Or was it that bait and fry? Reminds me of fishing. But I didn't kill him. No one is accusing me of that. I think there's someone who would beg to differ. I think we all understand your relationship with the victim, Miss Andrews. Very well then, witness, please testify to the court about what happened when you discovered the murder that had taken place. When I found the body. It was time for the show start, so I went to get Matt from his room. After that, I went to Juan's room. And there was his dead body. I was in shock. What I saw was naturally the exact same scene as in the crime scene photograph. I felt as though I was about to faint, so I poured myself a glass of juice. You poured yourself a glass of juice? Yes. Sadly, I didn't remember not to touch things at the scene of a crime. And I disturbed the crime scene by moving this one thing. And that's when the fingerprints on the wine glass were made, Your Honor. I see. Well, Mr. Wright, you may cross-examine the witness. Phoenix. She's one cool and collected customer. She has the brains to match. Yeah, I know. In order to catch a person like yours, you have to avoid hand-on confrontations. You should disrupt her pacing. Disrupt her pacing. She's the type of woman who is easily thrown off by things inconsistent with her thinking. So get to attack when she least expects it. Continue right up on your offense as the instant this trial is over. Understand? to begin. And what was Mr. Ungar doing at the time? He was taking a nap. He was worn out from his mini performance as the Nickel Samurai during the ceremony. Mr. Ungar did say he was taking a nap. And I guess you could say it could not have been taken out. It could not have been taken out of his room, yes? Excuse me, it? What are you?
Objection!
Right, I thought years of school would have taught you how to construct a sentence. If you can't make a sensible sentence with the subject, then I'll make one for you. Watch. Did you, Miss Andrews, remove Mr. Ungar's knife from its room? No. Subject, verb, object, right? Did you skip basic grammar? The witness may continue. After that, I went to lunchroom. And why did you do that? As a friendly Chester, one was to make an appearance with the other heroes. The show was supposed to be a show of friendship, huh? Is that the only reason? I beg your pardon? What are you implying? You had a certain goal in mind when you started to get close to it, correct? So perhaps you had a more personal matter to discuss with the victim? Sorry, but I didn't have any such intention in mind at the time. I can't bear to talk about a strong piece of evidence, I guess. Maybe continue now. Miss, what did you see when you got to his room? You were in shock? But was I not supposed to be? Miss Angie's a very calculating person. Despite how close they were, I doubt she had romantic feelings for Mr. Kurita. Anyone randomly stumbling upon a dead body would be in shock. And you can't seriously expect that a young beauty like her would not be shocked. Somehow, I don't think beauty has anything to do with being shocked or not. I see. This is the photo you're referring to, correct? Yes, the one with the knife lodged in his chest. And the guitar case was like this too? Yes, it was open and empty, of course. And then what did you do next, witness? You poured yourself a glass of juice. Yes, there was a bottle of tomato juice on the table, so I helped myself. But you didn't drink any of it, did you? Huh? There were no lip marks left on his wine glass to suggest that anyone drank from it. I wasn't feeling terribly great, so I set the glass down without drinking it. Miss Andrews, I'd like to confirm with you one more time. When you discovered the dead body of Old Gradick, you were in great shock. And that's when you poured yourself the glass of juice, correct? And what of it? My mind really was a complete blank at the time. Your mind was a complete blank? I didn't think that was possible for you. Aren't you rude today? I was so dazed that I made one careless mistake. That one thing. Well, one thing. Never mind. It's no big deal. What was she starting to say just now? Miss Andrews, I'm convinced that, as you said, you made a mistake at the scene of the crime. What I really want to know is what this mistake was. Actually, so would I. I'm sorry. It's kind of embarrassing. When I set the glass down on the dresser, I accidentally knocked the flower vase over. Flower vase? Are you talking about the one on the floor in the crime photo? This mess of glass shards. It was originally on top of the dresser, but when I bumped into it with my elbow, it fell into the guitar case. Why did you withhold such an important piece of information? I'm sorry. I thought that since the crime scene was already in disarray, people would simply assume the vase was not part of the mess. It looks like you had no other factors come to light here. Will you try to present this and anything else you have to revealing your testimony? I'm sorry, but I have nothing more to add. I didn't touch anything else. What kind of flower vase was it? It was a glass vase, and it was fairly big and heavy. I thought I would try to take Warren's pulse. So I set the glass I was holding down on the dresser. And that's when my elbow accidentally hit the vase. That's odd. I thought she was always able to control herself. That's what she would like people to think. Always be mindful of the gap between your perception and your reality. felt like there's any glaring contradiction in your testimony just now. I warned you earlier she would not crack so easily. The only way to make her is to keep on the offense and not let up. The only way you're going to catch her is with some very strong, decisive evidence. I just have to, for my sake. Where's the... It did, but it's open. Yeah, it's open in this picture. Target is open in this picture. Just the fact that you knocked the flower base over, is this correct? Yes. Now, are you sure it fell into the guitar case? Is there some problem with what I said? It's not some problem, it's a major problem. It's true that I thought the guitar case was wet with water. However, that's exactly what is so strange. Miss Andrews, you testified that the base fell into the guitar case. However, if that was true, the case should have gotten wet on the inside, not the outside. That's very true. Furthermore, there's one other strange thing about this guitar case. And what is that? Let's take another look at the crime scene photo. The remains of the vase are scattered on the floor. And what is wrong with that? The guitar case was open when the vase fell. The glass shard should be on the inside, not outside. What is your point, Wright? That the case was closed at the time the vase was knocked over. Is that all? No, think back to what Miss Andrews testified to. She said that other than the vase, she didn't touch anything else. Is this right? She did implicitly say that she didn't touch the guitar case. But this whole matter with the guitar case is a dead end. The bright red guitar was found in the studio and has no bearing on the case at all. That may very well be, however, the empty guitar case does seem to have no relation to this case, doesn't it? Seems that there is no deeper meaning to this guitar case. Well, Mr. Wright, do you think we need to get more details about the guitar case? The empty guitar case, I believe, is a crucial piece of the puzzle. I can't believe anyone would reach for straws like this, but it is you. I can't believe I'm doing this either. Alright, I'll follow along, for now. Miss Andrews, please testify to quote about the guitar case. Yes, Your Honor. The guitar case. I don't remember too clearly because I was a bit dazed. I suppose I must have opened the guitar case after I knocked the vase over. It's not a big deal though, right? The case was empty after all. As for why I opened the case, even I don't know. It looks like this really wasn't a very important point. This wastefulness is such a familiar feeling by now that it's almost comforting. Anyway, I'll just go ahead and start the cross-examination. Using anyway to change the topic, a convenient escape for a weak man. Yow! Phoenix just got roasted! God, you're weak, Phoenix. During your testimony just now, did you remember those events clearly in your mind? Well, you see... Are you sure you're the one who opened the guitar case? She's waiting for someone to tell her if she's answering. I don't think her dependent side's taking over. Miss Andrews. Yes, it was me. So you opened the guitar case then? Yes, well, maybe. Why did you open the guitar case? Huh? Mr. Clear's dead body was right there in front of you, wasn't it? I would think that the first thing you would do is call for help, not open the guitar case. She's very distraught right now. And the witnesses said multiple times when she found the dead body, she was dazed. Maybe I was curious to know if the bright red guitar was alright or not. I thought maybe the criminal took it. Why would she care about the bright red guitar? But getting back on topic... Was it really empty? I was just wondering if maybe when you opened the case, the guitar was still inside. How long have you been a lawyer, Mr. Wright? Have you little professionalism? Bright red guitar was found at the studio. These trials would have been over half the time if you just pay attention. Yes, pay more attention, Mr. Wright. Sorry. Was that because you were shocked and dazed at discovering the victim's body? Yes, that's probably it. Probably. I'm not going to get anywhere if I continue pressing her like this. The only way to make her talk is with evidence. I should give it a try. Come on, Phoenix, we can't afford to let up on her now. I wasn't planning on letting up, but she's at her weakest now, so this is our chance. If he had a weapon to hit her with. Sure, weapon's hiding somewhere in the bar record, okay? It doesn't... yeah. It only has Karita's fingerprints. There's no way you're the one who opened the guitar case. Why would you say that? It's elementary, my dear. Because the only fingerprint on the guitar case are those of the victim. What is it, Miss Andrews? You shouldn't assume that I must have left prints just because I touched the case. What do you mean? What if I tell you that I was wearing gloves at the time? That is a lie. Gloves? But why were you wearing gloves at the time? It was the night of the award ceremony, so of course I dressed up for the occasion. Yes, now I remember. I'm almost sure I was wearing a pair of thin gloves. I see. Well, Mr. Roy seemed to witness wearing gloves at the scene of the crime. That's strange! You were wearing gloves. That's a little strange. Why is that strange? Do you have something that would prove I was not wearing gloves at the time? The glass! Take that! I have your proof right here. This wine glass. The wine glass. You left your fingerprints very clearly on this wine glass. Ah. Even if you took your gloves off and you poured yourself this glass of juice, wouldn't you think it was just a little strange that you put your gloves back on just to open the guitar case? Oh, there goes her glasses, and she has another pair. Order, order, order! Looks like you hit the nail on the head this time. What do you mean? I believe this guitar case plays a very important role here. Just an empty case. I wonder if it really was empty, though. The bright red guitar was at the studio. Phoenix, triple your presumptions. What was in the guitar case was not the bright red guitar. You don't mean it was a bright white guitar? Wait, that's not right either. I admit it would be unnatural for someone to do that. The witness was not wearing gloves, despite the fact that on the case... Your Honor, this is obviously the defendant's usual misdirection tactic at work. Steer the court towards an unrelated topic and lure someone who is misguided. No, Your Honor, please recall that Miss Andrews had testified that the vase fell onto the guitar case, which means that the case was closed when the crime took place. However, it is wide open in this photo of the crime scene. I'm sure this guitar case has some relation to the murder. If you are so sure, right, then I'm sure you can somehow substantiate your outrageous claim, correct? Please enlighten us as to why that guitar case has anything at all to do with this murder. Can you do that, Mr. Wright? Well, let's suppose, for a second, that the bright red guitar was not the only thing that could have been in the case. The bright red guitar not being the only thing. You don't mean to suggest that the bright black guitar was... So you intend to push your theory that the case was not empty. Is that it, Wright? I wouldn't say something I didn't intend to prove. Deflate that head of yours. You haven't proven anything yet. Now let's have it. What was inside this case at the time of the murder? Take that! This is a photograph. Yes, but what's important is what's in the picture, Your Honor. In this picture? It doesn't take a genius to see what I mean. What I'm proposing is... inside the guitar case with the nickel samurai, the hero's very own costume. What? Mr. Wright, explain yourself. Right, are you saying that the one that's opening the guitar case take out a costume? What insane point would there be to do something like that? That insane point would be to wear the costume, of course. Miss Andrews put it on to hide her identity so she can make her escape. After all, you couldn't let anyone see you leave, could you, Miss Andrews? I refuse to accept your theory. If anything supports such a preposterous idea. Just outside doors, an investigative photographer was starving for a big scoop. And in the end, she managed to get this shot, correct? Do you mean this photo? Order! Looks like we wandered into quite another mess again, haven't we? Nice job, Phoenix. Well, you know I said, we speak first, think later. But the real murder was hiding inside a costume. Wait 1 second, Your Honor. The Nickel Samurai's costume would have been Mr. Madame Guard's. Why would something of the defendants be in the victim's room? Inside the guitar case of all places. True, that is a little baffling. Mr. Wright, the court would like to hear your thoughts. What was the Nickel Samurai costume doing inside the case? Mr. Guard did not take his costume off during the break period. In that case, the costume we were talking about was a spare one. What? Then are you saying on the night of the murder, there were 2 Nickel Samurai costumes at the Gamewater Hotel? Yes, that's what I'm saying. How do you explain the costume that was inside the guitar case? It would mean that the victim himself had brought this spare to this ceremony on purpose. But why? The victim, Mr. Corito, was a German ninja. Why would he secretly bring the Nickel Samurai's spare costume with him? What could be the reason behind such a peculiar act? And therein lies the sticking point. What are you mumbling to yourself about now? Have you just been rambling all the time without any sense of in a monologue? Huh? No, I just... Mr. Wright, please explain yourself. Why do you think the victim had the Nickel Samurai's spare costume? Phoenix, are you sure you can explain this one? Think carefully before you answer, and then answer with gusto. I believe in you. Alright, this is what I think. The reason the victim brought the Nickel Samurai's spare costume to the hotel was the press conference. What is this? On the night of the murder, after the stage show, the Nickel Samurai is going to hold a special press conference. A press conference? Yes, the Nickel Samurai is supposed to confess something at this conference. I heard about this as well. For once, you're not making something up, right? But what struck me as strange was that Mr. Ungard himself said he had no idea he was supposed to be holding a press conference that night. But how can that be? The way I see it, that can only mean one thing. The conference was set up by none other than the victim, Mr. Juan Corrida himself. The victim? Yes. The spare Nickel Samurai costume was prepared for that very conference. Mr. Corrida was going to hold the press conference as the Nickel Samurai. He was going to dress up as the Nickel Samurai and hold a conference. Why would the victim do such a thing? That's something I don't quite know yet. However, what I am concerned with right now is what he intended to reveal at the conference. The Nickel Samurai is going to confess something. And by confess, I thought he was going to reveal something about himself. Which means that Juan Corrida, posing as the Nickel Samurai, was going to speak about Matt Ungard. Yes, I guess that is what they would need. But if that's the case, that's not a confession, that's public disclosure. Miss Andrews, I can see why you are pros at what you do. Pardon me? Yes, just as you say, the press conference is set up by Juan. Miss Andrews, please offer us an explanation for this. I was the one who asked to help set it up. And the person who prepared the second costume for him, that was also me. You? Juan had bet everything on jamming Ninja this year. And if he lost the Grand Prix, he was going to make sure Matt was going down with him. That's what he thought anyway. He was going to ruin him, huh? Looked like somehow Juan had a secret so powerful that it would destroy Matt's acting career had it been revealed. What? And do you know what the secret of Mr. Ungard's is, Miss Andrews? That's something only Juan knew. I don't know what it is. I see. I've probably been coming off quite suspicious to everyone, but that's to be expected. I've been trying to protect Matt, after all. Protect Mr. Ungard. And yet again, another strange bit of truth comes to light, it seems. Miss Andrews, if you could, please tell us about the truth of your behavior. Yes, Your Honor, I understand. Protecting Matt. From the moment I saw the crime scene, I had a feeling that Matt was the murderer. Matt had to kill Juan no matter what. He didn't have an alibi for what he was doing at the time of the murder. My thoughts were confirmed by the evidence, of course, the button and the knife. But I'm Matt's manager, so I felt that I had to protect him. This does account for everything. Well, I am the logical type. We're finally seeing her true self. She's more nervous than a scared rabbit. If the defense can find no fault with this testimony, I'm ready to make a ruling. Please keep that in mind as you cross-examine Mr. Wright. Everything is swung to the opposite in the scale again. That just means I have to put my weight into this internal logic upside down. Here we go. What, did you say that was your intuition speaking to you? Don't confuse my methods of reasoning with your own. If you want to prove that someone did something, you need 3 things. 3 things? A motive, an opportunity to commit a crime, and finally, decisive evidence. And if you think these 3 things through, the answer becomes quite clear. You should have already known that, Phoenix. They didn't teach that to us in school, at least not from what I remember. May I continue now? So, would you say this need came from the press conference? Yes, do you know why Juan chose that event, that hotel, for that conference? Because that was when he could cause the most damage to the public's beloved Matt Ungard. And you knew of this plan, didn't you, Miss Andrews? Yes, because I was the one who set up the conference, prepared the costume. But I'm sure Mr. Ungard himself didn't know anything about the press conference. Oh, really? Can you show me any proof that he didn't know anything about the press conference? Anyway, the important thing here is that this remains on your testimony. Yes, I agree. Miss Andrews, please correct your testimony, if you please. Grasping at straws now, are we, Mr. Wright? Has Mr. Ungard had something to hurt or betray you personally? Why do you ask? You were the one who helped Mr. Carita with his press conference, and that event was supposed to bring down Mr. Ungard, yet you still helped out.
Objection!
The person on trial right now is Mr. Ungard, right? What the witness was thinking, helping the victim with his plan, is none of our concern. In any case, this means that the defendant had a motive to kill. Why do I keep doing this to myself? You always, rule number 1 of Ace Attorney, convict your clients first before you prove them innocent. It always comes around. Always happens. But didn't you already testify earlier that Mr. Ungard was taking a nap in his room? Are you telling me now that that too was a lie so you could cover for Mr. Ungard? I'm not telling you anything of the sort. When I went to get him for the show, he honestly was sleeping. However, as to whether he was sleeping the entire time, that I cannot say. I was too busy setting up the stage at the time. I keep trying, but I can find no flaws in what Miss Andrews has said. I can't say the same for some people in this courtroom, however. The judge is glaring straight at me. He's glaring at you, smart guy. If you can hardly call the knife decisive evidence, the fingerprints on the knife could very well be a clever camouflage. Then, what about the button? The button? It's clear from the crime scene that the victim and his murderer fought. And during the fight, the killer ripped the button from the gym in his costume. You're talking about this button, correct? That button was found in the Pizza Matt's Hakama, isn't that correct? I think that makes it very decisive evidence. Looks like you were outfoxed again, Mr. Wright. Anyway, the knife doesn't prove a thing. Please fix your testimony. I can't stand the sight of a man who can't gracefully accept his defeat. Think and speak and still look at me. With an icy stare, yes. Miss Andrews, for Mr. Wright's sake, please add this information to your testimony. And how do you know that? When the indented threads and the button and the costume were matched up, they were found to fit together perfectly, or so I heard. I've heard that before, too. Why Miss Andrews know about this case down to such a fine detail? Don't look at me like that. Just because I'm prepared, you are not. And I thought I had on this side of the shirt. Anything trip her on has to be here, but where and what?
Hold it!
But what you really did was stab the guy in the back, didn't you? And at the worst possible time.
Objection!
Who's to say she really stabbed the guy in the back, as you put it? This witness could have disclosed things about Mr. Ungard at the time. Why then would she wait until there was a large audience before doing so? It's the same reason why Mr. Corita planned such an elaborate contract. Miss Andrews wanted to cause Mr. Ungard as much damage as she possibly could. This witness bears ill will toward the defendant.
Objection!
This isn't the penetrate wax philosophy power hour. And please stop slandering the witness. So I expect Miss Andrews' money seems pretty solid. Really, because to me it sounds a little wishy-washy. Wishy-washy. Well, we'll see if I press a little more. You should know this by now. But you need strong, decisive evidence to make your talk. Got it, Chief. Alright, I know where to present. It's just like, which evidence do I present it? Do I present the... Not the map. Not the map. Do I present the photo? Or the button? I think the button.
Objection!
Never mind, it's the photo!
Objection!
Okay, I know this is where I present evidence. Which evidence? Because the blood shouldn't be on there until after he was dead because he was stabbed post-mortem. Do I present the autopsy then? Like, I know what I want to say. Then stab knife. So, autopsy? Thank you. It's like 3 different possibilities. Jeez, I know what I want to say. Jeez. This is the victim's autopsy report. It clearly states that the cause of death was strangulation by a scarf. Strangulation? The knife stab to the victim was done after the victim had already died. And what does that mean? Let's examine the evidence. This button has the victim's blood on it. Which would mean that was ripped off by the costume when? They should totally count for... The button should totally count there. The button should totally count there, at the very least. Ugh. After the victim was stabbed into the knife was stabbed into the victim. Not the victim was stabbed into the knife, but... Which means... It's impossible this button was torn off during the victim's final struggle. Because the victim was strangled to death in that fight. That's right, Miss Andrews. There is no way this button was ripped off during the struggle. This button was consciously pulled off the victim's already dead body. What is the meaning? What is the meaning of this, Wright? So what if the blood was torn off the body after the victim already died? What does that change? Let me ask you one simple question, Mr. Edriff. Why was the button torn off? What purpose did that serve? What purpose? We know that this button was not torn off during the fight. So the murderer took the time and effort to purposely rip it off from the victim's body. This would mean that the murderer had something in mind, wouldn't it? Mr. Wright, does this mean... Does this mean you know what the murderer wanted to do with the button? What was it? To pin the crime on Ungard. There's only one logical reason for doing something like that. It was to pin the crime on Mr. Ungard. There's no way anyone would put a bloody button in their own pants. That's right, Mr. Ungard was set up. By the real killer, of course. And the real murderer is... Well, Mr. Wright, who in the world is a real killer then? Finally. I can't believe I managed to bring this trial all the way up to this point. Phoenix, can't let your guard down yet, not until the very end. The real killer, the person who planned to frame Mr. Ungard, is...
Take that!
Adrian Andrews. Miss Adrian Andrews. I choose you! You're a Pokemon now! You are Sakurita's killer! Order, Mr. Wright! This is a very grave matter. Do you have any evidence that the board should charge? Any evidence? All the evidence points to Miss Andrews. How preposterous! You can't stick any of that on me. I can't, can I? Would you care to test me? Then what about this knife? The knife is used to stab the victim after he had already been strangled to death. If it's used to throw suspicion on the man on guard, naturally, the knife covered in the defendant's fingerprints could only be taken from his room. And the only one who had dinner with him and knew which knife to take and had gloves, by the way, was you. You admitted to having gloves earlier. Now, how many glasses do you have, lady? Well, what about the button that was found in Matt's hakama? This button was removed from the victim's body after he had already died. The only people who could have done so were the person who found his body or the killer. However, Mr. Ungard was the real killer. There is no way he would have put such incriminating evidence in his own hakama. The only person who could have put this button into Mr. Ungard's hakama is the person who went to wake him from his nap, which is you yet again, Miss Andrews. I see, what will do if you could talk this? That is also not a piece of evidence that incriminates Miss Andrews. That costume that was used to hide the real killer's identity as they put this crime scene. Who could have known that there was just such a costume inside the guitar case? It only have been the person who prepared the costume for the victim, and already admitted it herself. That person is you, Miss Adrian Andrews. No, But Miss Andrews' fingerprints were nowhere to be found on the guitar case. It was you who proved that she was not wearing gloves at the time. That's right. That's because she did not intend on leaving any prints. If anyone had found out that she had touched the case, they would have asked her why. So to avoid her leaving any prints, she used a towel or something else to open it. But the glass of tomatoes is a different story. Miss Andrews purposely left her fingerprint on the glass so that, yes, indeed, she was the classic dazed discoverer of a dead body. And top it all off, there's this photo. A photo of the killer that existed at the scene of the crime. No reasonable person on earth could believe this nickel samurai is Mr. Ungard. He'd be much too short for his own costume if it was him. Speaking of all tall people are, Miss Andrews, you are also kind of short in stature, are you not? Please stop. Well, how about it, Miss Andrews? I got it this time. Miss Andrews, I refuse to testify. What was that? There's a law. It says I can't be forced to testify about something if it can incriminate me. Well, yes. You are absolutely correct, Miss Andrews. The law does provide us with a way to avoid self-incrimination. Allowing witness to not testify says when it can cause damage to themselves. What? Pleading the fifth is not something most people would think to do on the spot. Ain't that the truth? Actually, thinking back to yesterday in Mr. Ungard's room. Adrian Andrews. Yes? Think hard about what we just discussed. Understood? Alright. That's it. That's when Francisca planted this idea into her head. She must have told Miss Andrews to not testify if things look bad. It's a good job proving everything up to this point, Phoenix. But there's still one thing you haven't done. Something I haven't done? What's wrong, Wright? Are you finished already? Run out of evidence? What is so humorous, Mr. Edgeworth? I'm sure you realize this as well, Your Honor. But everything the good lawyer here has proven up to this point is meaningless. What? Everything you have proven is circumstantial. Circumstantial. Yes, circumstantial. You have yet to provide a single piece of definitive proof. Proof that Miss Andrews did, in fact, harbor wish to murder Mr. Carita. Miss Andrews, did you want to kill Mr. Carita? I believe this may lead to me incriminating myself, so I will abstain from answering. But Miss Andrews, if you do that, it would be the same as admitting your guilt, don't you think? Maybe so, or maybe not. There's nothing to prove it either way. Besides, you don't even know what crime I would be guilty of due to my silence. She's taking that defiant attitude again. Mia, what should we do? Somehow we landed in the worst possible situation. I think we have reached a certain conclusion at this point in time. Miss Adrian Andrews has refused to testify. In defense's theory that she is the actual murderer has not yet been fully substantiated with solid definitive proof. That's not true. In this situation, there is only one thing Miss Clark can do. And that is to declare a recess. Recess? I request that both the prosecution and defense look further into this matter. And that tomorrow's trial? Tomorrow. We don't have a tomorrow. Don't get not guilty for it today, then. But please wait, Your Honor. But that's not necessary. The trial. Please continue the trial. What are you sweating for? Your client is getting one more day to live, isn't he? That's not it. This isn't about that. Edgeworth, I know you know who the real killer is. Please, let the trial continue. If I don't get the verdict, then But it's impossible to continue as long as the witness refuses to testify. Not in this court is... It is not impossible for this trial to continue. Mr. Edgeworth, what are you... It's true Miss Andrews holds the right against self-incrimination. However, if the topic of conversation is something unrelated to whatever she may be guilty of, then she has no right to withhold testimony. Yes, that's very true, but... Actually, there's one little thing that I'm curious about. Miss Andrews, when you found the victim's dead body, you poured yourself a glass of juice. Yes, and I can't help but think how unnatural that is. Usually when one finds a body, they're shaken up, not stirring a glass of juice. So my actions were unusual, but I've already... Before you speak, I want to state that if you have a reason behind your actions, I'd like you to testify to that effect. Testify? Your Honor, I would like to request that the witness testify again as to what happened when she first discovered the victim's body. Whatever we find out in this testimony should in no way implicate the witness. I don't know what it is about Edgeworth, babe. I can't get a good read off him. Is he friend or foe? I just don't know. The court acknowledges the prosecution's request. Miss Andrews, if you please. Oh boy. That glass of juice, I didn't really pour it for myself. I was surprised when I walked into the room and saw it in that messy state. And Ron, he was sitting slumped over and tired looking in the corner. When I saw him sitting like that, the thought he was dead didn't cross my mind. To be honest, I thought he had just fainted or something, so I went to pour him some juice. When I realized that he was dead, that's when I knocked the flower vase over. So you poured that glass of juice for the victim. Why didn't you say so in your earlier testimony? I didn't think I needed to include something so trivial. Phoenix, please be careful here. If you can't find anything wrong with this testimony, then there's nothing left. I know. What in the heck is going on that brain hurts? Now that Mr. Wright, you may begin your cross-examination. Cool, I'm allowed to actually press everything, even though the contradiction is so obvious.
Hold it!
There wasn't anyone else in the room, right? Of course not. Then who did you pour it for? Mr. Wright, there's a rhyme and reason for everything. Can you wait just a little longer for it to be revealed to you? In other words, the right to be quiet and listen. Precisely. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Hold it!
So, it was a mess? Are you sure it wasn't messy because of your fight with Mr. Burrito?
Objection!
I understand your frustration on being able to prove your theory, however, before you go accusing people of crimes, go find yourself some evidence. And then, what did you see next, witness?
Hold it!
Slumped over. Yes, he was just sitting there with his head tilted forward, eyes closed. He really looked like he was sleeping. Just figured that right there sounded a little odd.
Hold it!
Then what did cross your mind? I thought maybe he had smashed everything up in anger because he lost the Grand Prix. And then felt tired after scrambling, so he decided to take a nap. Anyways, that's what I thought. I see, so you didn't think he was dead at all. You thought he fainted? I thought he was asleep at first. But then the room was in such a messy state. Thought maybe he had gotten into a fight with someone. And that's when he went to boil a glass of juice. Yes, he always has a hard time waking up. So I always has a glass of tomato juice to drink. I see. And after that, what happened next?
Hold it!
And how did he come to realize that he was in fact dead? I shook him over and over, but I never got a response. So I set the glass down on the dresser and tried to take his pulse. I was shocked and staggered backwards. And knocked the flower vase over, so that's what happened. Yes. It's all what it comes down to. This is the absolute end for both sides. Adrian's letting her guard down. Phoenix, now's our best chance yet to kill the prosecutor in the case. But ours, Miss Andrews, will you tell us the truth this time? The thought that he was dead didn't cross my mind. Really? With a knife, really?
Objection!
So you honestly didn't think he was dead when you found him? No, not at all. Even though this is what you saw when you discovered the body? What is the meaning of this? Isn't it obvious, Your Honor? There's a knife sticking straight up into Garita's chest. Anyone who saw this scene would have immediately thought that they were the dead man. That's, well, see, I doubt a single person in the world would mistake this for someone who fainted. And so nonchalantly go pour something to drink. Your point is, Miss Andrews, your testimony just now, it was all one giant lie. And your lie has proven one thing very clearly, that you are the real killer. No! It looks like the defense has somehow brought the ugly truth to light. The defendant, Mr. Madam God, is not guilty after all. But that's impossible. You're wrong. Miss Andrews, try to have some composure. It wasn't me. It wasn't me, I tell you. It was Matt, I swear it. He's the one who killed Vaughn. But you were the one who refused to testify. And your reason for not doing so was that you might end up incriminating yourself. That's because... Miss Andrews, I will give you one last chance. What exactly are you hiding that may incriminate you? I refuse to testify. And there's no need for this court to continue any further. Mr. Vanguard's innocence has been clearly demonstrated. Is it over? Have we found the truth at last? What's wrong, Phoenix? Usually the real killer confesses his real guilt. Now that I think about it, this is the first time someone hasn't. Now then, I would like to hand down my verdict to Mr. Madam God.
Objection!
There it is. Your Honor, prosecution feels it would be premature to pass down a verdict at this time. What? The reason is quite simple. This witness has yet to speak the absolute real truth. The absolute real truth. What are you... Witness, don't you understand yet? I don't know who planted this silly idea in your head. But as long as you protect yourself through your silence, Madam God will go free, and in his place, you will become the guilty party. That's a lie. I don't believe you. What? I was told if I spoke, then it would be all over, and Matt would never be declared guilty. What in the world is she talking about? Has she lost it? I can't speak about it. I'm too scared. It's Francisca von Karma. Don't you remember, Phoenix? Miss Andrews was like gripping tightly onto the words of another, because she doesn't have the strength to believe in herself. And right now, Miss Andrews is. Yesterday, she was tossed a lifesaver by Miss von Karma. Don't say a word, no matter what happens. If you do, Madam God will be acquitted. Miss Andrews undyingly believes in those words right now and is clinging on them. And what should we do? This is the first time I've ever come across anything like this. But Miss Andrews has to be the killer, right? All we have to do now is get her not guilty. That's my only priority. It wasn't me, I'm begging you. Please believe me. I didn't kill Juan. Please, someone help me. Mr. Wright? Yes, Your Honor? The board can't continue on like this. Therefore, I'd like to hear what you intend to do. What I intend to do? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to say? Right, I suggest you think very carefully about this. Think about what this witness did and what she did not do. Think about who is the real mastermind behind this crime. Who's the real mastermind? Isn't that obvious? No one else could be except the woman crying over there. Right? Come now, what will you do? What kind of man are you, Mr. Phoenix, Wright? I have to win a complete acquittal today. There's no way around that. But I can't bring myself to do it like this. Not when she's making a face like that. Miss Andrews, I would like to know what you are really hiding. Mr. Wright, are you sure you know what you're doing? Sure, Mr. Untitled would get an acquittal, but in place you would be found guilty. Is this how you really want this trial to end? Be quiet. How dare you? You're trying to trick me. That's enough. I commend you for trying, Mr. Edgeworth. However, it's clear the defense's theory is the truth. You're wrong. What a shame. I had hoped things wouldn't come to this, however. What is it, Mr. Edgeworth? Miss Andrews, since you absolutely refuse to testify, it falls on my shoulders to disclose this to the court. Stop! Mr. Edgeworth! Oh boy. This witness, how should I put this? She has an illness. What? And because of this illness, she has tried to commit suicide in the past. Stop! Please stop. No matter how much you want to hide it, it's no use. I have the evidence right here. That's the second part of the suicide report. The attempted suicide report. What will you do now, witness? You know what I am about to do, don't you? I will now reveal to the court the true nature of this pitiful woman known as Adrian Andrews. The secret of her dependent nature. Having other people know about it scares her more than anything else in the world. Please, stop! I beg you! People find out! If people find out, I'll... You're going to say you would choose death. That is of no concern to me. Edgeworth, how can you be so cold? However, before you die, I will pull the truth from your still breathing lips, no matter what I have to do. So when you tell the court yourself, or shall I? Either is fine with me. I'll talk, please. Help me. Nothing matters anymore. Edgeworth, no nonsense. When I first saw him, I really thought he'd fainted, honest. When I realized he was dead, that's when I formulated my plan. Once I made sure there was no one in the hallway, I made a dash back to Matt's room. And then I stabbed Juan's dead body with a knife and ripped off the button. Just when I finished, I was returning to Matt's room. I had a bit of an inconvenience. That's why I ended up using the nickel samurai costume. Stab the body with the knife! Why would you do that? Isn't it obvious to pin the blame on a certain person? A certain cowardly man. What do you mean by all this? It might take this court a little while to understand, but... this is the truth. The real killer is Matt. That scumbag of a man. I'll never forgive him. He's trying to escape his guilt again, just like last time. Last time? So Miss Andrews stabbed the victim, Juan Carita, in the chest with the knife. However, she didn't do it with murder in mind. She did it with the intent of bringing Matt on guard for the murder. And this is her crime. How is this possible? I mean, wasn't Miss Andrews about to be the real murderer? Mr. Wright, please get over his shock and commence a cross-examination. The last one for this trial, right, I believe.
Hold it!
Well, you could tell from the state the room was in that there must have been a fight. Are you telling the truth when you say you did not know he was dead? He had a scarf tied around his neck. That scarf is part of Jim Ninja's costume, so I didn't think anything about it was strange. His head was also tilted down a bit, so I couldn't see his face that well. That's why I thought I'd wake him up and went to pour the juice.
Hold it!
What is this plan you had? I knew right away the murderer was Matt. I knew because, well, I was going to expose Matt's weakest weak point to the world. So Matt did as a stop on and silence him for good. That's when I thought I should forge some evidence and pin this crime on Matt. So the forged piece of evidence were the knife and the blood. The first thing that came to mind was to plant the knife.
Hold it!
That was so you get the knife, correct? The knife Matt used at dinner had his fingerprints all over it. I thought if I used that, then the police would certainly turn their eyes towards it. Matt was napping with his costume on at the time. I slipped in, took the knife, and returned to the scene of the crime.
Hold it!
So you were the one who stabbed the victim with that knife. It gives me goosebumps to think about it now. What a horrible thing I did. But at the time, I couldn't control my own body. It moved on its own. And when I stabbed Lon's dead body, I suddenly realized something. If I used the button somehow, it could make Matt look even more suspect. So you thought to rip off one of the buttons and put in Mr. Ongar's Hakama. Yes, that's what I planned to do. But things never go that smoothly, do they?
Hold it!
An inconvenience? There was a woman with a camera at the ready, loitering in the hallway. I'm willing to bet my spikes it was Laura. There's also a woman with a ray gun at the ready, pacing back and forth. That's Miss Holdbag for you. I'd already been caught into a big scoop for a certain weekly tabloid once, so I couldn't very well go out looking like myself and get caught again.
Hold it!
You were the one who prepared that costume, weren't you? Yes, I took it from Global Studios. I also put it into Lon's guitar case as he for the award ceremony. You did this in preparation for the press conference, correct? Yes, Lon wanted to wear that costume and hold a press conference. He was going to disclose Matt's biggest secret there. And what is his secret? That I don't know. Anyway, I thought that if I would leave Lon's room in the nickel samurai costume, then people would think that Matt was the real murderer. I was very careful not to leave any fingerprints when I opened the guitar case. I absolutely did not want anyone to know about the costume. I think we've heard enough. So after all that, you went back to Mr. Onguard's room and planted the button. Into Matt's Hakama? Yes. After that, I folded up the costume I was wearing and put it into a bag. Then I snuck it out of the hotel and got rid of it. My word, what does all this mean? Mr. Edgeworth, is it? The real criminal is Matt Onguard. Yesterday, that woman prosecutor sat me down for a talk. Francisca, huh? Said that I should under no circumstance confess to what I had done. If I just kept quiet, then I would be found guilty for sure. I had no choice but to believe in her words. What this woman has done is clearly unlawful. However, as long as the testimony stands, we can be certain she's not the real killer. Wait, Your Honor. The defense still... Right. It's pointless. At this point in time, it's not possible to indict Miss Andrews on anything. Yes, exactly. There isn't a single piece of evidence that points to her as a murderer. The cross-examination of the witness is over, and so is today's trial. You couldn't establish that the witness was the culprit. Please let it go, Mr. Wright. But, Mr. Edgeworth, please place Miss Andrews under arrest for further questioning. Understood, Your Honor. Prosecution will arrange for her detention immediately. That is all. Court is adjourned for today. Well, fuck. And the first time we see this right in the series, I think so. Today's trial is over. I didn't win the acquittal. Witness, would you mind if I asked you something? Edgeworth? What is it? Before you leave court today, I wonder if I might look at one thing. The card in your hand has had my interest for quite some time now. What exactly is it? Oh, this? Mr. Wright also asked about this. Although, I didn't remember at the time you asked me about it, Mr. Wright. I remember just now. I found this in the room on that day. The room? That day? Yes. I found this card when I discovered Juan's body. It was lying there right next to him. You found that card next to the victim's body? I suppose I must have unconsciously slipped it into my pocket. But it's not as if this card has any relevance to Juan's murder, right? I guess not, but it's still a strange card if you ask me. But as far as a clue of this case, I don't see why. Hold it! Witness! That card! Give it to me! Hurry! Edgeworth? If any idea what you have stupidly yet inadvertently done! Miss, I can't believe you hid this from me all this time! I didn't mean to. What is this all about? I've never seen Edward so emotional before. That card! What in the world is it? And what does it mean? We'll have to find out next time. Yeah, I'm gonna... Oh boy. Great first day of trial. I'm gonna stop recording, not just this part, but this session for today, because this case is not only long, but Miss Oldbag's voice from earlier is still kind of wearing on me a bit. It hurts a bit, so I'm going to have to finish this case in another recording session. So that's going to be it for now. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.